Rumblex vibration platform. And today I'm going to be taking you through a therapeutic yoga practice that's going to emphasize hip strengthening, stretching, hip releasing. It's kind of really going really deep into our hip joints. So I'm really glad that you're here today. I'm going to give you some time to get settled in. I believe you might have gotten an email about the prop set. I'd love for you to have every time we have a practice. So obviously you'll have your vibration plate, whatever one you're using. They're all awesome and they work for this therapeutic practice. I want to suggest that you have a blanket. It doesn't have to be a yoga blanket, but you want something, especially because I like it to sit on the platform, and I like it to put it underneath my knees. If you're dealing with issues in your tissues, and I do with my knees as well, the blanket is perfect. Have a chair handy. This is a 2-foot chair, something that's easy to move around, like portable. I would really suggest that you invest in yoga blocks. I recommend it. If you don't have them, you could use paper towel rolls, because actually they do work, which is awesome. But over time, as you're practicing, yoga blocks are much more sturdy. So welcome to this therapeutic practice today, working on releasing hips. I'm so glad you've made it here. Give me a high five where you're at. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Let me know if something doesn't make sense. I kind of look at the chat periodically to see what's going on, but I'll definitely answer your questions later. So let's begin the practice. I'm going to be in my Rumblex Pro 4D. We're going to be seated. We're going to start here in a seated position while we talk about our hips and settle in. Today, I'm going to start with using the oscillating. That is the up and down, which all the platforms have. So I would like you to turn your platform on to oscillation. You can have a speed relatively low. We're going to sit nice and tall. What does that mean? You're going to move the flesh from the sitting bones so you can feel those sitting bones. And cross your ankles, place your hands on your knees. With every practice, it's all about connecting to your breath. So bring your hands together at your heart space. Feel free to close your eyes to come inside. And we're going to work with about 3 rounds of deep breath. Inhaling into the belly, the ribs, and into the heart space. And as you exhale, sigh it out. Open your mouth. Make it that H-ah sound. Take another deep breath in. And this time, press your hands together and reach up. And then exhale, push everything out down to the platform. Connect to that space. One more time, bring the hands together. Inhale. Lifting up through the crown of the head. Reach up, exhale, and bring the hands to the knees. Now, we'll work into some seated cat-cows. That simply means you're going to pull the navel back, pull the ribs back, hold on to the knees and look toward your navel. And then bend the elbows and let the heart lift up. Now, if you're not familiar with why we're doing therapeutic hip releases, it's because our hips hold a lot of unconscious tension. And how do you know that? Usually because it's pain. That's our signal. So continue with these easy cat-cows. Lifting the heart, lifting the corners of your mouth. Feel good about this. Because we deal with this unconscious tension, we get a lot of tightness, a lot of stiffness. And you might notice today in your practice that you'll feel perhaps some emotion releasing. Don't be surprised if there's a tear in your eye, not because it's painful, but because you're releasing things, some negative emotions, maybe some fear, some worry, some anxiety, stored deep into our hips. And there's a whole science behind that, which I won't talk about today because I've got lots of moves for you. One more time. Take that exhale and tuck, and inhale and arch. Great. Now, the first 3 poses we're going to do seated, so you're right where you need to be. If you want to amp up your tension or your resistance a little bit, or your level, you can take it up. I'm in a speed 3 now, and again, I'm oscillating. okay? We're gonna go into the first one called Malasana. It's also known as garland pose. So you can see I'm taking my feet wide. You can point your toes out, take your elbows and put them into the inside of your knees and bring your hands together. The connection of your thumbs to your chest gives you a slight tilt, and you're gonna feel this stretch in the back. Take a deep breath in, and on your exhale, sigh that out. Now this is a very passive, we're not moving in the stretch, we're gonna sit in it, we're letting the energy from the platform move into our hips. Taking a slow breath in. Remember, the breath is what's gonna help release our tightness, our tension with that HA sound. Let's do this one more time. Inhale, feel the lift, and then take your hands and release and open up, exhale, open up your mouth. In this pose, Malasana, we'll move into a stretch. So you're gonna take your left hand up and reach up. So you can look at your left hand or look down at your right hand and open up. So feel that long line of energy opening up. Focusing on opening the right hip up. And then bring your hand down. Line yourself, both hands up, lifting up, crown of the head, reaching tall. And then we're gonna slide that left hand out and the right arm reaches up. Now it doesn't have to be like a huge, intense stretch, but just enough that you feel space, opening up your heart and open up your hip. If it's too much on your neck, look down at your left thumb, or you can look forward or up to the right thumb if it doesn't bother you. And then bring it back in. Our Malasana, garland pose. Bring your knees together. And you can just kind of like open and close them a few times, just release. Now our next posture, and I'm gonna show you these seated and we're gonna do some of these standing. So we're gonna hang out here for a bit. The next posture is called Malasana. So you're sitting up nice and tall. We always start with that long spine. Your right leg is straight and your toes are pulling toward your hip. You're gonna pick up your left knee and just get a little loosen up. You can make some circles. You want this to be nice and organic here. Nice, easy circles. And then we're gonna pick that thigh up and cross over. Now you can't see this, but I'd like you to look down to make sure your left big toe is anchored. Interlace your fingers and pull the shin closer in. Right heel pushing out, left foot pushing down, and you're up and tall. Now you're gonna take your left thumb and put it right in the hip crease. Anchor down there. My right hand is pulling my knee toward me. My left knee is pushing out. So there's a push-pull feeling here. And you'll notice that some sensations of stretching into the IT band area. And this is connective tissue from the knee to the hip joint. Press your hand into your lower back to stabilize that. And just again, allow that platform to do its magic to loosen things up. Find your breath. A nice slow inhale through your nose. And maybe there's something today that you've been really worrying about. Take an exhale here and let it go. It'll be there after the practice, but for right now, it's all about you feeling good in your seat. Release that twist. The other side. So we'll extend that left leg out. Pull your toes. You'll feel a nice hamstring stretch here. Interlace your fingers and take your hand behind your right thigh and make some gentle circles in one direction and the other, just to loosen up that hip joint. And we'll lift up and cross over. Now you'll probably be able to see this more. You see I'm pressing my big toe side of my foot into the ground. Interlacing my fingers to pull the shin up and sitting tall here. Retract your chin. That's super important. In my last two videos ago, I talked about how where your head placement is huge, and that also contributes to lower back pain. Most of us have been sitting a lot these days, staring at computers, looking down at phones, and that 6 pounds, 8 pounds of head can transfer to about 30 pounds of weight in your back. So if you bring your ears over your shoulders and shoulders over the hips, the spinal column is in its desired position. Now I'm taking my right thumb and putting it in my hip crease, pulling the right knee toward my shoulder with my hand. But now my knee is going to push into my fingers, pressing away from my shoulder. There's a pull and a push. And you'll feel perhaps a bit of an adjustment in your back. Take your right hand now, put it in your lower back. If you'd like to add a more of a twist into this, look over your right shoulder. Breathe in, lengthen the spine, exhale, sigh it out. And come back to the center. Uncross your legs. Open and close a bit. We're going to prepare for our next pose, which is called bound angle, Baddha Konasana. And don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz on this yoga Sanskrit, but I like to throw a little bit of that in. Now, you can take your yoga blocks, if you'd like, or your paper towel roll, and we're going to place it right, one block or one roll, right in front of our center, and put our heels, the little toe side of the feet, into the block. And rock a bit side to side here. You're already vibrating on your platform, so give it a little rock side to side and get a little more comfortable. Hands are on the shins as you sit nice and tall. Take a deep breath in. Now, on the exhale, bend your elbows and slightly lean forward. Be very aware that it's not your chin that's coming. You want your heart to come forward. Exhale here. Inhale, come on back. Bend the elbows, exhale. From the tail all the way to the crown of the head is where we find our length. And then release it. We'll do this one more time. Again, these are just 3 seated poses that you can do. Maybe you've done a workout and you've worked on strengthening and you want to get a stretch. These are awesome to help you release your hips. And then let's go ahead and release. Bring your feet together. Okay. We're going to come up to standing. So check to see what your time is here. I'm almost about ready to end this session, this 10 minutes. So I'm going to stop my device. And now for you, those of you that have a Rumlix Pro, I'd like you to put it on the lateral, side to side. Now again, if you have any of the other devices, stick with the oscillating or just the pulsation. But if you have the lateral movement, I'd like you to go to that. So I'm going to put that on. And start it. And I'm going to a speed of 1 to start. Come behind. And what I'd like you to do is set up a few things here. I'd like you to take your blanket, because you may need it. And you're going to put it just about 2 feet away. You can adjust that. And you can take your pad, if you've been sitting on a pad, off your plate. I'm going to start stretching into the right hip flexor. So bring your left foot forward. Square yourself off. I've talked about this in many of our poses that when we want to come into really getting great alignment, it's all about squaring the hips and the shoulders. Place your hands on your hips and bend into your front knee. Every time you go in, we're not going to that final pose, we're working our way into it. Pressing the pelvis forward. So if you're sitting at a computer, and I know, again, a lot of us are, our hip flexors get super tight. You're going to hold this pose for a minute. Actually, not a minute, a breath. Now, my left foot, I'm going to heel toe over to the left. And here's the options for this next pose. It's known as lizard pose. The asana name is Utthita Prasthasana, but know it as lizard pose. We're going to turn the left toes out and open the knee and close it. Just roll on the foot. You're rolling to the little toe side of the foot and back. So this is the option for those of you that cannot go into the next part. This is just going to external rotation. If you'd like to follow me to the next level of this, we'll come back to line up the knee, hinge forward, find your yoga blocks, and place them inside the left foot. Now we're walking into a low lunge, so take the right foot back. Here's your low lunge. There's a 2-for-1 special here. Shoulders are getting the sensation, the vibration, the energy from the platform. Your right hip flexor is getting its release. Now take that left foot out. I'm going to take my blocks to a lower level. If you don't have blocks, fear not, you can put your hand onto the outside of the platform, and we're going to take this left hand and push the knee out. Now, right now, my knee is off the ground. If you need a little bit more support, adjust your blanket so that the shin, not the kneecap, but the shin is on the blanket. And again, this is my knee that kind of has some problems with it, but as long as I have the shin on there, there's no pressure on my knee. And you're rolling your muscles out. Check the alignment of your shoulder to your wrist. Let your chest stay open, and you can even look over your shoulder. Lizard pose. It can go a little deeper. So if you're with me, come on down. I'm going to take those yoga blocks, put them in front, put my forearms on the blocks, and now I'm picking up my foot. I curl my toes under. I'm going to really drop my hips. This is not necessarily a beginner pose, so if you can't do it right now, fear not. This is a practice. I showed you from the beginning to the end how you can get to this pose. Take one more breath in, sigh that one out, and just like you came in, you'll come out of the pose. Nice and easy, pop the back foot up, and bring your blocks on the floor. You'll notice a huge difference from side to side. So we're going to go into the next side. Step back with the left foot, square your hips, bring the right foot on the platform. So we're going to bend into that front knee. My back heel's lifted, and I'm taking it down. Going into a nice little lunge. You can keep your foot anchored and feel the left hip stretch. Add on to it if you like by bringing one hand up. There's lots of enhancements here. So I'm just going to give you options. See what feels good for you. That's the most important thing, that you're breathing. Now, for those of you that can't get on the floor, all we're going to simply do is walk the foot out to the right. The toes turn out. And you can put a little bend in that back knee if it's too much. And just roll your foot from right to left, left to right. Roll it out so you're on the, we're calling this the blade of the foot. Keep your toes pulled up toward your knee. Keep the knee joint integrated and just feel that opening in the hip. Hip flexor, definitely stretching, and right hip joint. Now, if you'd like to go a little further, come along with me, walk the foot back in. We're going to bend into this, find our yoga blocks, take a low lunge. So I was on high blocks. Now, if you're using your paper towels, you've got to be really light because you'll smash them. I'm wiggling the left foot back. Here's the low lunge. Both blocks inside the right foot. I'm taking it down to a lower level and walking my right foot out. Toes are pointing. We're going to call this 2 o'clock. And I'm going to press out into that inside of the right knee. If then this is too much, bring your shin down onto the blankets. You can take the block on the floor, hand on the side of your platform. Watch your left shoulder, please. It's super important you integrate that stability as you push out. Taking deep breaths in and out. Lastly, if we go deeper into this, we put our blocks back on the platform, forearm rests. You can curl the back toes and lift that knee. This is the deepest part of lizard pose. Palms up, shoulders back, chin pulled in. And there's the breath. Slowly come out of this. Remember, everything's a practice. As slowly as we set up for this pose, you come out the same way. Press up, bump up your back foot, and carefully come in. So that was a lot for the hips. We're going to come into another version of Malasana. We did it when we started our practice. So now I'd like you to bring your chair in front of your platform. If you have tight ankles, tight calves, and many of us do, take your blanket and put it on the back part of your platform. Step on your platform, and your heels will be on the platform and the toes are apart. You're going to slide your hands down your knees, and many of you may just end up here. Remember how I put my elbows inside, hands together, and we're opening up our hips. Some of you might take your hands here to hold on, and then others of you may drop deeper in. And I'm moving my chair out so you can see me. Toes out, knees out, hands at the heart space. Now, as I said, a lot of emotion can come out of these poses. One might be that you want to get out of here because you're afraid that you're hurting yourself, but pay attention to the breath. It will always tell you if you're in a safe place. A deep inhale and a long exhale. Again, the chair could be handy if it becomes too much on your knees. Press down on the chair, lift yourself up, legs straight, and then sit back down. And you can just hold yourself up on the chair. So that's the other option of that. Take one more deep breath in. Inside out. If you would like to add your twist, just like we did seated, we're going to reach out and up, pushing the right arm into the inside of the right knee. Come back to center, open both hips, and now take your twist, pushing the left hand into the left knee, right arm up. Come back to center. Carefully support yourself as you come up. And now we have completed our Malasana pose. We're coming back to our seat. By now, your hips should feel pretty loosened up. So if you'd like to just move your chair out of the way, and I'm going to take you into one of my favorite poses called Gomukhasana. Now you can see I put my blanket up on the platform. So I'd like you to do that to give you a little height and have your yoga blocks handy. Now, Gomukhasana is also now known as cow pose. There's two parts of it, the lower body and then the upper. I'm just going to show the lower today. What we're going to do is we're going to cross our legs right over left. This is the starting posture of this. Now, what we'll end up doing is we're going to walk our feet out. It's very important when you do this, and I just lost my power, so I'm going to go back in and take it again. It's very important when you do this that your feet are flexed. What I mean by that, not pointing, you curl your toes up. And you're going to scoot that blanket. It'll cover your platform so you don't shut it off like I just did. Toes are pointing forward, feet are flexed, grabbing onto the kneecaps with opposite pull apart. Take a big breath in here, sitting tall, and sigh that out. Deep internal rotation into the hips. We just did external in the last pose, now we're internally rotated. Our hips are designed, besides our shoulder, which is the most mobile joint in the body, the hips are the next mobile joint, or they should be. If you'd like to add a little more sensation, your blocks can come in front of you and you hinge from the hips, pressing down to the blocks to get your length. And you should feel a lot more sensation on one hip than the other. The leg that's underneath might feel it more than the leg on top. It just depends where you're tightest. Just observe, just notice this. It'll change over time as you practice it. Be here with the breath, with the feelings. Any sharp shooting, numbing, tingling, as always, listen to your body and come out of it. So we'll all come out. Take your hands behind you, uncross, put a little blood flow into the legs, and let's repeat the other side. So now I'm going to cross left over right, bending both knees to start. And I'm a lot tighter on my left hip, so you might even notice the shifting. But that's why it's a practice. We're trying to balance things out. I can feel my left hip coming up. So if you put your hands on your hips, notice the difference. You might notice that your one hip is higher than the other. Again, feet are flexed, grabbing gently onto the knees or the shins to pull those knees across your center line. Your femur bones, your thigh bones are pushing out. We're creating a lot of space in the back of the pelvis, the back of the sacrum. Big opening into the hips. Your hands can rest on the platform, on the blocks, on your knees. And then check in what feels best for you. To intensify sensations, all we simply do is hinge forward, and that's where our blocks come in place. To feel the thigh bones pulling into the hip socket. Keep the chin pulled in, the breath steady. And allow the platform to do its magic. One more breath here, please. And then release. Uncross. And a simple happy baby to open up the hips. Now, happy baby is normally done on its back, but I'm going to show you how we can do this on the platform. I'm going to take my blanket away so I have a nice flat surface. Knees are bent. I'm going to grab onto the right foot and pull the knee back to my armpit, holding on with to the left shin so I'm upright. If you'd like to have a little stretch into this for the hamstrings, you can press out through the heel. If you're feeling very tight, you can hold behind the calf. You can even hold behind the knee joint. I'm going to give you all those options. Work with what works for you. So this is half happy baby, sitting tall, and switch sides. Again, holding under the left calf, left ankle, or outside of the left foot while you're supporting yourself, holding on to the right shin, sitting tall, bending that knee into your armpit. Exhale as you stretch the hamstring. Inhale, bend it. Exhale, stretch. Inhale, bend. And last one. Now we're going to end up on the back of the platform. So come on up, check your time to make sure you have at least 5 minutes or so. If not, you can always restart it. Because once you're laying down, I want you to stay down. I'm going to take my blanket and I'm going to just let it rest over the edge of the platform so that it's comfortable on the back of my legs. And we're going to go into a little bit of a windshield wiper move. So I'm changing my time and I'm going to go back to the oscillation. If you're happy with the lateral, stay there. And I'm going to give myself a speed, a low speed. I don't go much more than 5 or 6 when I'm practicing on the platform yoga. Place your feet on the platform, scoot your butt as close to the platform as you can, and roll down. Take your hands behind your head, lift your head, and look toward your belly and stretch your neck. Walk your feet wide and bring your knees in. Once they're in here, open up, release your head, and open up your arms. We're going to take the left knee and turn it in. The right knee will point to the sky. Take an inhale as your knees touch to center, and now the right knee comes in as the left knee comes to the sky. Do this 2 more times with your breath. Internal rotation of just one leg. Come back to center, and then the other side. Slow and steady till all the air is out. The third time, the knee drops in, the left knee drops in as far as it goes. Now let the right knee drop over too. Take a deep breath in and a long sigh out. You're going to get a nice release from the hip to the knee. Shoulders are flat. Relax. Let go of the weight of your legs. On your next inhale, prepare to move. And as you exhale, use your abdominals to come back through center. Switching sides here. The knees are together, the feet apart. Drop your right knee in until it can't go any further. And then allow the left knee to go into external rotation. Again, let go. The breath will help you to let go of everything. Now, big windshield wipers to the right, one time. To the left, one time. Then back to center. Once we come back to center, walk the feet together, the knees apart. Again, take your hands behind your head and just take a look to make sure that your feet are centered, the knees apart, and you'll lower your head slowly. We're going to allow the inner thighs to relax. Feel the weight of your bones being slowly moved up and down. And let all that energy come into the hips. On your next exhale, we'll bring our knees together and take the legs over and just let the legs rest for a moment. The toes wiggle out, the legs are shaking, the bones are moving deep into the hip sockets, and we're just allowing everything to settle that we did in our practice. I'm going to invite you to stay here for 3 to 5 minutes so that you can let the energy that we've done in the practice, the movement, the fluidity of movement or the lack of fluidity, just to seep into your bones. Being very aware of your breath. Because of this video, the time frame, I'm going to come up from this pose, but I'd like you to stay in here at least 3 to 5 minutes and enjoy it. If you're going to come up out of there, feet are flat, and you're going to roll to one side and slowly bring yourself up. Take your time. We're going to end up on our seat for the final stretches. So you can keep your blanket resting on the platform. Carefully come on up. Now, a lot of you, many of us know about figure 4 stretch. It's pretty typically done in so many different ways. You can lay flat, you could lay on your back, you could be sitting in a chair. And today I'm just going to do it seated. The intense version of this pose is called pigeon pose, but just because I want to make sure you get one more good hip stretch that might be a little different than you're used to. What I'd like you to do is just hold on to your left shin and bring it in, cradle it. Foot is flexed and place that foot over your thigh. So you can see you've made this figure 4. Now your knee might be up in the air, no worries. Let it be wherever it's going to be, but your pelvis is stable. We can add on to the intensity of this simply by sliding the foot up, closer in, closer in. Now, if you feel like you're going to fall back and that happens, take your hands underneath your right thigh, keep your elbows at your side, or you can take your hands and wrap them around your shin. Now, I'd like to go a little deeper in this, and I've been practicing yoga for a while, so my hips are fortunately pretty open. But what I'd like you to do is, if you want to go deeper, your right elbow is into your left arch, your left elbow is around your knee, and you're going to interlace your fingers and hinge forward. And right now I'm in oscillation mode, level 8. Okay, so it's a little more intense for some of us, but it doesn't have to be. You can go back and down. And I'm hinging forward. If you find you're rounding a lot, you're probably not ready for this. I really like to have a long spine. That's where the beauty of all our hip stretches come from. A nice long spine. And let's try the other side. So carefully take your foot off. That really goes deep into the hips. Your left leg is straight. I'm going to adjust my speed again. Left leg is straight. I'm going to take my hands underneath my right shin calf. Keep the foot flexed, keep both feet flexed, and just sit in this figure 4. Find figure 4 first. This is a great starting position for this practice. Again, in pigeon pose, when people have a lot of issues in their knees, figure 4 is the way to go. Okay? See where you're at? Start sliding that left heel in. You can instantly clasp your hands behind your thigh. Pull it in a little bit more. Using your biceps, pulling a little bit more. Make sure both sitting bones are even. When figure four is done on the back, we kind of lose this. We lose this feeling of a very stable pelvis. Our tailbone tends to curl up. You can't do too much curling this way. Then maybe you want to put your hands on your shins. Keep lengthening through the crown of the head. And then if you want to go to that deepest part, elbow into the arch, elbow into the knee, interlace your fingers and make that strong bind. If there's any tension left, this is definitely going to rinse it out. Take one more breath with me, please. Sigh that out. When you're ready, remove the bind, remove the legs, and come into a comfortable seat. As in every yoga practice, it is your practice. It's individual to you. So I've given you a lot of options today. Whether you're in any of the platforms, start with a light setting. There's no need to rush this practice because it is a journey here to open up the hips. Be very aware of your breath. We want to unite breath with movement at every time. The ow is not the ah, and you're always looking for that release. If you have any questions on this practice, please definitely put in the chat. You can contact me at livefit.com. You can private message me on Facebook. But I'm happy to answer all the questions in the chat for everybody to find the answers. I'd like you to join me now with your hands at your heart space. I want you to be very aware of each of your sitting bones. Close your eyes. Feel the heart lifting up into the hands. Feel the corners of the mouth lifting up. It's my honor and privilege to take you to this practice in order that you may stay safe, stay healthy, and stay strong. Have a beautiful and blessed rest of your day. Namaste.